Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Maverick News Channel. The war of words ramping up. It is a war, trade war, information war, fifth generation kind of war, and everybody's losing. It's just bad, really bad, and J.D. Vance should watch his mouth. Everybody's focused on Doug Ford tonight because of, well, he's upset. A lot of jobs on the line. The Canadian economy, Ontario's economy, under extreme pressure, threat. It's there's economic anarchy out there because of what Trump is doing, and it's Trump. Don't even start. It's over there. You can have skirmishes, you can have disagreements about things, but this is off the charts stupid. If you can't see that, it's because you don't want to. It's ridiculous. But not as bad as you might think. But J.D. Vance, that's the guy. And Trump, but J.D. Vance too. That guy's got to watch his mouth. I'll explain why when I come back after this.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are Maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, why did I say that about J.D. Vance? Because of this.
From Canada. We have to remember, Canada is a state. Sorry, Freudian slip. That was actually an accident. Canada is a country that has underinvested in its military that quite literally would get invaded by a foreign country from Canada.
Was that a mistake? Was that a mistake? He's the vice president of the United States. We're in the middle of a trade war. We've had, how long has this 51st state stuff been a problem? And that's the problem, even more than the trade file. All these stupid tariffs. No, that wasn't a mistake. And they laughed because they're ignorant. They don't know. They don't know much of anything about Canada. Americans, it's not their fault. They don't get the information. Go down to the States. Go look at the headlines right now. Where's this story on the trade war? It's not like the lead. It's being reported on tonight, but it's, middle of the page. And the stuff drops off. And the further south you go in the States, the less and less and less they know, because we become less and less relevant or important to them. We're very important to the Eastern Seaboard, Michigan, and border states, of course. And certain states rely on Canada more than others. But generally speaking, their media is filtered because they just don't look. They know about as much about Canada as, I don't know, pick a country. Istanbul. Just go over the border from Windsor to Detroit. Walk around downtown, talk to people, ask questions about Canada, and they won't know much of anything. I've done it many times. They know it's over there. I'm not saying these things to be insulting at all to Americans. I'm just saying that they just don't, that the media doesn't cover Canada in a way that we cover the United States. We are bombarded with American media up here. That was one of the main issues, again, that resulted in the breakdown of the trade talks. Culture, information. Trump, his administration, they want free access to everything in Canada. They want total access to social media so that they can bombard us with propaganda, information warfare, advertising, whatever you want to call it. And if you don't give it to them, they call it censorship, and to the point where they don't want any even taxation on the big tech bros on the Canadian side. Well, Canada reserves the right to do those kinds of things. And Canada has not always been in the right, I don't think, about the way that they've treated U.S. media in the past. I mean, I'm fairly familiar with the history of a lot of this stuff, and cable companies and U.S. signals, television signals being broadcast into the country, and copyright laws and distribution laws and agreements, where cable companies used to just take U.S. broadcast signals for free and distribute them on cable systems and charge you a fee, and made tons of money without paying any royalties at all for U.S. programming. That was a long-standing thing. That's not the case today. Now it's flipped upside down the other way. And it's a sticking point, and it's about language, and it is about what we were talking about last night on the program with French language issues and the French language on packaging. That should, if you're concerned about it and you live in Quebec, well, it's the rest of Canada that is defending your language rights now, and they want to separate. And out in Alberta, you should take note of that, because what is it that's protecting Quebec right now? Their culture, the very issue that they want to separate on, it's the rest of Canada. It's all of Canada together that is standing firm against that. JD Vance should watch what he says, because he's the vice president of the United States. He should apologize. He should have said, "Oh, I'm sorry. No, my mistake." He did say, well, it was a mistake, but he didn't apologize, and he laughed. It's not funny, because it's not a joke. It's offensive is what it is. And then Doug Ford, understandably upset, attacks Trump today. It's a big body, full blow body, no holds barred smackdown. Yeah, he's responsible. He's jobs on the line. Trump has threatened 50% tariffs on all cars, trucks, all vehicles manufactured in Canada, because he wants to destroy the Ontario auto industry. And if you don't have a problem with that, then again, you just don't want to see what the problem is. It's not complicated. Canada did not start this. These issues were resolved multiple times over multiple agreements, from NAFTA to Kuzma with USMCA twice, and in other negotiations prior to that, the Auto Pact, all of these things, they've been resolved. Trump himself signed the agreement, USMCA. It was his deal. The first Trump, now Trump number 2 comes along. Are they even the same person? Doesn't seem so, because then he comes in and then he's tearing up his own agreement, saying it's the worst deal ever. But it's his deal. And now we're getting this because it's not about economics, and they lie their asses off. And the information warfare is ramped right up now. It's at a fever pitch again. And yeah, it's bombast. It's saber rattling. It's rhetoric. It's not truthful at all. It's very clear that a lot of the information coming from the Canadian side, I think, is more accurate than what you're getting on the US side, because you can blow giant holes in what they're saying quite easily. Bessent, Lutnick, well, just the rhetoric yesterday about Canada has no unions. And that is just so rich. These Republicans, these MAGA Republicans, these Trumpians, portraying themselves as the champions of the working class. Ha! What a load. It's all window dressing. It's all rhetoric. It's not true at all. They're enriching themselves. Trump, how many billions of dollars has he made since he's been president? He's sending, these negotiators, his family, his business friends, these oligarchs, to go around the world to represent the American people. Today, he's announced they've taken Syria off the, the sponsor of terrorism list. Why? They've taken Syria off the list so they can allow the big US companies, his oligarch corporate billionaire friends, to go over there and start doing more business again. Fresh story, hot off the presses. So easing pressure on Syria so that his business buddies can go over and make more bank, while he puts the screws to Canada. And then the social media influencers here in Kazakhstan, the Trumpian loyalists, are still barking about how it's Canada's own fault and how Canada defending itself is the wrong strategy. What are you supposed to do when someone is punching you in the face repeatedly and calling you nasty names while they do it, telling you you're the one being unreasonable? It might be time to walk away, which is what Carney did, calling the negotiating team home. And then this crap about, and I'm seeing it online. The only reason that Carney is doing this is because they have some by-elections coming up, and they every time he talks tough about Trump, then they score more points. Shut the hell up. You have a lot of scared people up here in Canada, and rightly so. I totally understand. People are trying to support their families, and all of this crap is destabilizing everything, and it's being done intentionally. Combine that with the 51st state rhetoric, and you should take it very seriously, because you can see very clearly what Trump is actually doing. And it is exactly what I've been telling you he was going to start doing a long time ago as he came back into power. Dominate the entire Western Hemisphere and just make it all USA, USA, USA. Blockading Cuba right now, took out Maduro, literally ready to stage something in order to take control of Greenland, and saying so. And now this with Canada. You think this is a joke? And you think J.D. Vance saying that, if you really think that was an accident, after sitting, if you've been watching here and you think that's an accident, that is not an accident. That was absolutely intentional, designed to get a rise, to normalize the whole idea of Canada being exactly the thing that he said it is, in the same way that they've tried to screw with your freaking mind by renaming the Gulf of Mexico. It's gigantic mind F. A little bit at a time. Drip, 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 drip. Got a phone call today from friends out in California. They said, is Canada going to turn off the lights, turn the power off? I said, well, I hope it doesn't come to that. But that's what they're hearing on their side of the border, waiting over in California. And that's because of what Doug Ford was saying today. It's not good. But why is all this happening? It's because of the push from the White House. They want to, what he does is he throws as much spaghetti at the wall as he can to see how much sticks. He's as extreme as he can possibly be in demands and in statements. And then he just keeps at it to see how much he can get. That's his negotiating tactic. That's what the master negotiator, the king of the deal does. And then he just they chip away a little bit more and a little bit more to work toward that goal, to normalize it in people's minds. It's like, well, it's inevitable. Well, of course it's that's what it is. Then it eventually you just buy into it and it becomes true in your mind. And if it's true in your mind, then it's true. Canada is a what? Excuse me. We're a country, sovereign country with a constitution. They've been chipping away at the idea of Canada for a long time, for years now, which I've been highlighting here on the program. There are different political pockets and political groups that have been involved. And you're the target. You've been the target, especially people here on this program. You are their prime target. I've been their prime target. But I sit in the chair every night. I speak to people behind the scenes. I've been covering politics since I was a kid. I've seen behind the curtain. I know how things work. Yeah. Older now, just in the game, different way now, in this new medium, but I know how it really works. And it makes it a little, I can conspiracies. Some truth, some not. Because there's flawed methodology out there in the way that people analyze a lot of the stuff. And it's enough to drive you crazy. And it's also because you are misled intentionally by these sorcerers, masters of manipulation. Trump's really good at it. He's got a huge team and network behind him, and it's global. It is global. It's a whole political movement. Canada's the crown jewel, man. I've said it for years. I've been sitting here for years telling you Canada is under attack. It was hard to tell at first, like when we came back, when I started doing these broadcasts, it was hard to tell who was really behind it. Was it Russia? And I had a few people saying that it's America. It's the United States. I was like, oh, no, it's not. I can't believe that. But see, the reason it was so difficult to tell what it was is that it's not really the United States that's doing this. It's MAGA. You have TDS. No, man, it's not just him. It's a whole network. It's a system. It's a political machine. The center is right there around him. He's not the only one. It's a powerful thing. A lot of money, and they're gathering more and more power. It's international. They support political parties around the world, the ones that they want, and they attack the ones they don't, because they're moving toward a new world order. There are competing visions of exactly what that's supposed to be like, but it's ongoing. In fact, I would say that kind of thing has always gone on. There's always somebody trying to create a new world order. Right now, it's Putin, Xi, Trump, and then you've got the secondary layer of other world leaders that are in their camp. And while they're maybe not exactly allies, they're not exactly adverse. They're not exactly enemies either. They're competing. They're gangsters. This is bad for business if you do this and if you do that, but there's no honor among thieves, and they're all out there trying to steal shit. That's what they're doing. It's a lot easier, I guess, in Trump's little mind to go and just take stuff from other countries rather than build a productive economy and do it through hard work and blood, sweat, and tears, right? I don't know. I have all this stuff lined up to talk about tonight, and here I am going on about it. But he is not this whole we're looking out for American workers crap. No, they're not. They're looking out for themselves. And if they bring factories back, if they reshore some of that stuff, if that's successful, it's only so that they can make more money. They don't really give a damn about the little people at all. The tax cuts that they've introduced for the middle class and the poor, the poor, there's no tax cut for a poor person. They don't have any income to tax. The middle class, that's all superficial. That you got to look at the bigger picture, man. You look at the big look at Elon Musk. The guy is the world's first trillionaire. Why? That's all government money. Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, all those guys, 1 minute they seem to be opposed to him. Now Trump's back in power. So of course they've bent the knee. They're back in there, in tight with him. And he's protecting them and making sure that they make billions of dollars, not just in the United States, but around the world. That's why in the trade talks, Canada's legislation to tax the big social media companies, to have them make sure that some money flows back into a system where the news media, and I don't really agree with the way the money was going to be split up and has been split up. I don't really agree fully with the way that it's being implemented. However, I understand why it's done. And these are long-standing issues. This is about Trump backing up his tech bros, saying, "Yeah, don't you worry about it. We'll make sure that you can have complete free access to all these countries because we're going to have to make sure that there's basically no border anywhere in the world so that you guys can have access to human minds everywhere." Why? Just to why? Just to sell ads? No, so that they can control your brain, so that you vote the right way, so you also buy the right things, so they can control you, and maybe even jack you into the matrix eventually with a Neuralink plug, or which you won't maybe need because they're gonna just you'll be you'll be connected by cell phone towers, 5G, 10G, whatever. And I'm not talking about it in conspiratorial terms. I mean, this is technology that's just out there. This is why and the AI data centers and all of this stuff. Yeah. And that's why the rhetoric between these countries right now is all very real when they're talking about digital sovereignty. Yeah, it's a concern. It's a real thing. And we need to be getting this right. But Trump, he wants the border dissolved. Elon Musk wants no borders. He wants access to everything, everywhere, all the time. They find the laws, the regulations in various countries because they differ from one country to another, the restrictions that are placed on them, censorship issues like that. They want all that stuff gone. And they sure as hell don't want any brakes applied to this AI arms race. We have to get it first before the Chinese do, before the commies get it. And, we're the little people, man. We're the ones taking it on the chin on both sides of the border, and they don't give a damn. They don't give a, monkey's fart about Canada. Well, I do, you can be conspiratorial all you want and say, well, Carney's in on it. He's Trump's best bro. This just all theater. Well, no, not really. Nope. That's them screwing with your brain. There are two sides in this, and it's not that one side is pure and the other side's evil. It's not that simple. It's shades of gray across the board. Two different visions of what the world should be. I'll tell you this, like, the one is rooted more in the past and the ideas of liberal democracies, rule of law, those kinds of things still in place there. There are political overlays that are current, modern, which we've experienced as some of the far left extremism, wokeism, if you want to call it that, the progressiveness, the progressives. It's not really liberalism, and it isn't really, I used to call it cultural Marxism. That's not really what it is either. It evolved beyond that. It became this strange, still formulating a real definition for it because it's all new. It is new. It's a novel kind of progressivism, and a lot of it is centered around transhumanism and even transgenderism, which ties into all of that, because then it becomes, what can a human being be? Not just, I want to be a firefighter. I want to be a doctor or a lawyer. I can be anything I want to be. No, it goes beyond that. And of course, they're saying, no, we can use surgery or hormones, chemicals, digital technology, whatever, to let you be whatever you want to be. And on the other side of the equation, you've got other people saying zero technology. We want to roll things back. We want to become like the Amish. We want to live in the woods in a lean-to and say no to all technology and ride horses and say no to cars. And when the big war starts, we're all going to run into the woods with our bug out bag and pretend like we're going to survive, which isn't going to happen. And it's the stupidest thing you could possibly do. If the war's coming, it's going to find you wherever you are. And sure, I'm just telling you, don't run into the woods with a bug out bag, because your bug out bag will keep you alive for a couple of days and then you're going to die. There's some hard truth that you'll have to deal with. That'll be a reality come knocking. The stupidity is off the charts. I'm tired of it. None of this has to be happening at all, because as much as people complain, and man, do people complain, we've had it so bloody good. We had it too good. We took it all for granted. And it blowed up real good. And then it's still blowing up. He's bloated it up. And he's having a hell of a good time doing it too. You can, like, he really is flying around on his fancy jet, surrounded with gold, making all kinds of billions of bucks, and he gets to insult everybody all the time and then portray himself as a big fat victim while he calls women fat pigs and says that ugly woman with the big fat ugly face, and talks like that, tells reporters how stupid they are, tells anybody he doesn't like that they're all low IQ, calls Democrats domestic terrorists, and then dumbs it down for the dumbest of the dumb, thinking it's funny when he calls them all Democrats. Tired of that crap too. It was sort of funny for a while because it was so unusual and shocking. He's like a political shock jock. And people laughed and they thought he was going to come in and stick it to the man. He is the man. In case you haven't noticed. You think he's going to go to jail for the crap he's done? Not a chance. Won't go to jail now. Not going to go to jail when he leaves office. Didn't go to jail before. He was the president. It doesn't look good when a country puts a former president in the clink. It would be really bad for America. I don't think, be in favor of it as much as I see how incredibly corrupt things are. Not just with him, but in everything around him. And the support. And Rick, you have TDS. Oh, shut the hell up. Like, seriously, shut the hell up. Come to me with something intelligent to say. Don't just TDS. No, man. Look, it's undeniable. He talks about it himself. He's enriching himself. Any politician that is breaking the law, stealing, running scams, crypto scams, pump and dumps, billions of dollars, taking payoffs for more favorable treatment on tariffs. You want to solve the trade war? It's not that simple. You just have to do something corrupt to belittle yourself, to bend the knee, to capitulate, to dirty yourself up, to do something illegal. Like, it would be incredibly illegal for Canada to do what other countries have done, which is to go down there and take him a trophy made of gold, praise him and say that he's the president of peace. And thank you, Mr. President. Here's a gift made of pure gold, and you'll get favorable tariff treatment. But we have laws, actually domestic Canadian laws, that prevent the government from doing such things. Even corporations that operate in Canada, to prevent exactly that kind of corruption, not allowed to do it. That was what do you even know what the SNC Lavalin scandal was about? Probably not really. You just know that it was something bad and Trudeau did something bad. I wrote Substack about it, like months and months and months ago. Because the details people don't get. They don't know. It's like, yeah, SNC-Lavalin, the media attacked the Canadian government, Trudeau specifically, for something that a corporation had done. It was in Libya, and the company was trying to secure contracts over there, and it's a corrupt government. So if you want to get a government contract to build roads or infrastructure over there, you basically have to pay off the government. And we have laws domestically in Canada that say any company that is based in Canada is not allowed to do anything like that. If they do, that's breaking the law, even if it's in another country. And if you get caught, there are big penalties for that. And the penalty was so large that it was threatening Canadian jobs, because the penalty against SNC-Lavalin would have been was severe. And Trudeau intervened and said, hey, you know what, Jody Wilson-Raybould, the woman in charge of all the charges, he says to her, couldn't we just maybe back off on this a little bit, because this could cost some jobs? And then, of course, the media picks up on it. The anti-liberal, fair enough, right? It was wrong what he did. But in the minds of the public now, they just turned it into a Trudeau thing. But it was an SNC-Lavalin corporate thing, and a violation of what, the Canadian law, because of their conduct, their behavior over in Libya. And so Trudeau takes it in the neck, because he was trying to protect Canadian jobs. He didn't make any money off it. He didn't bankroll anything. It wasn't to enrich himself. So he took a political hit on it, and continues to take a reputational hit today, because in the minds of people, you just say that and it just triggers anybody on the right, because you don't get the details and here I am defending that. And I don't even mean to, because he was the worst prime minister in Canadian history. He screwed up during the pandemic. And why am I even on about this shit? Because it's all crap. Because it's so complicated. It's hard to sit here night after night and bring you information in a concise way so that you can see the big picture, especially when everybody is being constantly bombarded with BS from especially the magosphere and the media network that they have set up. You get it on the other side too, no question about it. And certainly when Biden was in power, the Democrats are in power, they had more leverage over the media. In fact, sometimes even outright control in some cases. And then they use their power to twist your mind and all of that. And then you've got the conspiratorial channels from the Alex Joneses and everybody else, and they chime in, and it all becomes very confusing and a big mishmash of mush. And then it's like, well, pick your brand, pick your team, pick your tribe. And then everybody sits around, and then you just get into your own little information bubble, and they just bombard the shit out of your brain to convince you that this is the team you're on, or this is the truth, or this is the reality, and this is the way it must absolutely be. And then nobody, it's very difficult then to change anybody's mind, because they only see information in today, a very confined bubble, and where nothing else is allowed to get in, because you've also been told that you can't trust those other people, that other media machine. If you'd listen to them at all, then that's just a lie. Everything they've told you is a lie, which is a lie in itself. So you don't know what's true anymore. And then you get into a situation like this, where we have this trade war on back and forth. And now this is exactly what it has become over the last even 48 hours. It was that way before, but it's ramped up now, where I'm seeing just outright lies being told, especially by the US side. And nobody knows what the hell the truth is anymore. And it's all meant to discredit. This is Canada does have the right to defend itself. And so we should. What's the smartest way to do that? We can debate that. But if you're sitting there thinking that, I mean, it's just bad all the way around, man. Nobody's gaining anything from this. This is destructive on every level. Not just because it is literally driving people insane, because it makes it impossible for the economy to grow as much as it should, for us to make life better for people, because there's too much chaos. Because Trump and MAGAsphere and the extreme left, and they're all fighting over crap. And we should be working together. Yet the problem is, I do believe in limited government. And what we have right now is like way too much government. We have way too much Trump. We have also, in many respects, way too much Canadian government too. And we should dial a lot of that stuff back. And to some degree, we're getting that, but not to the degree we need. They're in the way. And you can see it every night. What are we talking about here tonight? We're talking about this buffoon, sorry, but true, in the White House, who doesn't have our best interests in mind. It's certainly not the best interests of Americans, because it's so chaotic that our companies don't know where to build, how to build, when to build, where to invest, what to invest in. Should they go back to retooling and designing newer, better, more efficient, more powerful, more competitive internal combustion engines and vehicles to wrap around them? Or is he going to be gone in 2 years and then we're going to be back to producing and moving toward the electrification of the auto industry? Do we need to build more infrastructure to support an EV industry? Or should we back off of all of that and just put the pedal to the metal and just, turn every car into a 1,000 horsepower monster that just sucks twice as much fuel and spews toxins into the atmosphere so that we can all breathe worse? I don't know. Turn every highway into a drag strip. Let everybody do burnouts just to warm up the tires on the way to work. Drop the speed limits. Have everybody race. It'll be the Freedom 250 every day on every highway and byway. I don't know, man. I'm just freewheeling here. This isn't what I wanted to talk about tonight at all. But you wind me up. I guess I looked at too much social media before I came onto the program tonight. I spoke to some people on the phone, and maybe that got me a little too jacked up, but it pisses me off, quite frankly, when the Vice President of the United States refers to my country as a state. It's insulting. They're really good at that. That's the problem. That's a bigger problem than the tariffs. It's the attitude. It's the constant drip, 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 chip, 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 a road. Because these folks are still living in the late 1700s to mid 1800s. They want to revisit old conflicts, old wars, settle old scores that were settled a long time ago by people who are long dead. And they're not going to stop. They're going to keep on going. Even after Trump is gone. Thing is, Mr. Trump is effing around, and he's the one who's probably going to find out, because this is bigger than him. I don't know where it all goes eventually, but I think he's a little bit out of line. And I think he's going to find that there are people in this world, especially when the powerful people get together, the other gangsters, and say, this guy's kind of out of control. He's gone too far. Bad things happen. I don't live in that world, because that's the club that we don't belong to, or one of them. But he kind of He moved in and out of that world a little bit, but he's not really of them. I think they're getting tired of him. Approval ratings, the voters down. He's tanking. Midterms. Oh, who the hell knows? You can't really trust all the polls, right? Because they get cooked up too. And public opinion can shift pretty quickly. Tell you this, though, as much as the super powerful, super wealthy, super elite are concerned, they still fear you. They need you. That's why they're so invested in the information warfare. Because you do get to vote. We can't change anything. I'm just one person. No, man. Together, we're a bunch of ants. And they're afraid constantly. Feed you enough, take care of you enough, shut you up, make sure you don't rise up, make sure you're controlled enough through mind control and social media so that you vote the right way. Keep on voting. Man, they're afraid of you because you do have the power. You just don't really quite realize it. There was a speech sometime back. Again, I'm just winging it tonight, man. Do you remember? It's got to go back years now. Trump stood up. I think he actually said this a bunch of times, but he said, you are the elite in some speeches. I don't think people really understand what he was saying. The people in the audience cheered, the MAGA crowd. And they were like, oh, yeah, stick it to the man, Trump. You tell them they're not the elite. We're the elite. We're the elite. We're the elite. No, there's more to it than that, my friends. More to it than that. Think about it. Here's this guy. He says he's basically at war with the elite. So he said. He's at war with the elite because they never fully accepted him. Always lived on the wrong side of the tracks in New York. But wanted to, his dad said, don't you go over there to the fancy part of town. Try and do business over there. They don't want us. But off he went with a chip on his shoulder, and an ego. And he wanted to be accepted. And so he rallied the common people, harnessed the power. You elevated him. We elevated him to the highest office in the land, in the world. But he's at war with the elite, he says. It's always stuck with me because there's always a deeper meaning to it. But he doesn't really like you. Not really. Because he's a germaphobe, doesn't like to be around unclean people, likes his money, likes his fancy trappings. He's smug. He does what he's got to do. Campaigns, kisses the babies, washes his hands after. He doesn't like you. Stood up, remember, just a while ago. We can't afford these social programs. We can't afford healthcare. We can't afford to help people like that. That we're busy financing wars. Let the states take care of it. You're so full of crap. We're too busy fighting these wars that you said you weren't going to get people involved in. But again, I keep coming back to you are the elite. He's at war with the elite because he doesn't want to give you anything. He doesn't really want to help you. Even those no tax on tips tax cuts, they're temporary. Look it up. Minimal impact on people's lives. No tax on tips. Well, that's real nice. Plays well in the media for a while. During a news cycle, then it's gone. Move on to the next thing. So why am I stuck on the, you are the elite thing? Look, we have first world problems here. This is what I'm saying. People complain. We don't want government intervention. We don't want the government controlling our healthcare. Give me more healthcare. I need the government to take care of me. I need free pharmaceuticals. I need cheaper pharmaceuticals. I need government intervention to keep the prices down. But don't get involved. I don't like the government. I can't trust the government. Government shouldn't be doing anything. But if the government doesn't lower those drug prices, I don't know what to do. And the government shouldn't be involved in the marketplace. But why isn't the government creating more jobs? And the government has to get involved because the auto industry is under attack. So why don't they subsidize the auto industry and do something to bring these auto companies back, but don't get involved because they shouldn't be giving any kind of a handout to the corporations and blah, 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 blah. Because you want it both ways, because you've had it both ways, because you've got it both ways, because the government does do a hell of a lot for us right here, but not just the government, the military, the economic system, all of it designed to bring prosperity at unprecedented levels in history right here. Even in the worst of times, we can't even fathom how good we have it, even at its worst, compared to the poverty that is present in other countries, compared to these other countries where the super mega powerful psychopaths bomb the crap out of people pretty much daily, blow their homes to bits. But here we sit, and they need you because they need you productive. They also need the base of people in order to prop them up. Trump needs you because you're the ones who get to vote. You have the freedom, you have the power, you have the vote. People in these other countries, the countries where people are being bombed to smithereens, they don't get to vote. And after they've been bombed out of their homes and their businesses and their countries, and they try to come here, now he's saying, F you, get the F out. We don't want you here. You gone. Deport. There's a story today about somebody serving, I think it was aboard the Abraham Lincoln. His father got deported. I don't even know the story, but it's disgusting. But they need you, and yet he detests you. Doesn't really want to give you anything, and they sure as heck don't want to. They don't want to give you any social stuff. This is why it's just so rich listening to, I think, Besant today going on again today too, about how they support the working class. No, they don't. They don't want to give you anything. Not really. And they want to do things to enrich the big companies, the pharmaceutical companies, They were giving these drugs to other countries at lower cost. Like, think about it, okay? They were doing it. Like, I'm sure there are people in a tug of war, even in there, back and forth. Who should we, it's better for public health care and to keep diseases in check around the world if they make pharmaceuticals available at discounted rates on a, ability to pay basis from country to country. And I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but this was a sticky thing for Trump and an issue that he kind of was spearheading, where he was like, no, that's it. We have to have the lowest prices in the United States. So they ended a lot of this stuff around the world. That gets the pharmaceutical companies off the hook. You don't have to be good people anymore. He's saying, just screw them. That's all right. We'll just do this, and I'll score some points at home. We'll get more voters voting for us, and it'll make me look good. You'll get richer, and you don't have to supply any of these pharmaceuticals to people at discount rates in other third world countries where they have nothing. And when the disease is spread, that'll just create even more demand for your product. And so if, you're just focused on the business side of things and maybe not the humanitarian side, that might not be such a bad deal. Just saying. Strange how those things kind of work out, Same with the tariffs. First round of tariffs, illegal, totally illegal. Hammering Canada. You think they didn't know? You think they didn't know that the tariffs would ultimately be thrown out in court, and that all that money would have to be paid back? So that all the billions of dollars that were flowing into the government coffers in order to address the massive public federal government, now $40 trillion debt, all of those billions of dollars in tariffs that he said were going to flow into the country and make everybody rich and win, win, win. What happened to all that money? Where'd all that go? All of it. Where's it all going? Court said, you got to pay it back. Who paid it? The big corporations. They got all the money back, the tariff money, the extra tariff money that was charged. So it actually enriches them, doesn't it? Yeah. Because who ultimately paid it? Well, the corporations paid. Then they sold everything that they paid the tariffs on at higher prices to you. You paid it with higher prices, inflation. And then that money back to the corporations because it had to be paid back, right? Well, but it didn't get back. The consumers didn't get the money back. You didn't get your money back. They got all their money back. Just kind of like in the pandemic. Massive transfer of wealth, biggest transfer of wealth from the middle class to the super ultra mega rich. Who was in charge at that time? Got to think who was president when all that kind of went down. Trump. Weird. This stuff just kind of sticks to him, It's like bad stuff. Just follows that guy around. He's like bad. He's a walking bad newscast, that guy. And he's in the news every day. It's like me, and I joke because sometimes it feels like it, but literally like 3 weeks ago, I was out walking around, walking the dog, and giant black clouds, blue skies everywhere, but one giant black cloud, it literally forms over my head and starts to rain on me, just like in a cartoon. Yeah. Some days it just feels like that, especially now. It's terrible. But you persevere and touch a tree, unplug, and it's not so bad. And a lot of what's going on right now, these are just the first shots being fired in this trade war. And it isn't really that bad yet because the $20 billion worth of goods that are subject now to this 50% tariff, Canadian goods, hockey sticks, not good for the companies involved. You're talking about things like honey producers, The bees make the honey. The farmers take the profit. It's total exploitation of the working class. And yet, strangely, it's the bees that control the means of production, but the farmers control the means of distribution and packaging. The federal government, provinces, states, governments of all kinds, they impose their regulations. What do the bees get out of it? They get to fly around and be little busy bees, and spread the pollen. What do they get? They get to live in their little beehives, free rent, I guess. But the honey producers, they're not in good shape. But it's only 5% of all the trade. And the other thing is, the other good news is CUSMA, USMCA, whatever, it still remains in place. So the cars, the trucks that continue to flow, the parts back and forth, the big sticking point, like the thing that just blew everything up again today, was just all this bombast, these threats again, the constant freaking threats. I don't, like from Trump, January 1st, 50% tariffs on all automobiles and trucks and Okay. That gets people upset. And then Ford today, Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, thorn in Trump's side. Oh, he got under Trump's skin, triggered him good. News conference held today. Let's run a little bit of it. And polarized opinions out there, and people criticizing Doug Ford. Look, I mean, seriously. Compare this to what Trump says about, just watch one news conference with Trump. Every single news conference, he just insults somebody in the media. And that's just the media. That's just, But man, if you criticize Trump, and then you get these, you got TDS. What about you? Why do you tolerate it? And okay, Doug Ford said some stuff today, probably not that diplomatic, but is Pete Hoekstra, the U.S. ambassador to Canada, is he really diplomat? No. Diplomacy's kind of gone out the window, in case you hadn't noticed, folks. And you'll see that here.
Well, good afternoon. Before I get started, I want to thank Dan, Anthony, and Danny, along with the entire team at Mars Homes for hosting us today, and the incredible workers behind me for being here this afternoon. I'm here today alongside with Ministers Fideli and Bethenfaldy, as well as Minister Oosterhoff and PA Sorello and Mayor Horvath, to talk about President Trump's latest economic attack on Canada and what our government is doing in response. Earlier today, I had the chance to meet with workers at the Fasco steel plant here in Hamilton. And my message to those workers is the same message I have for workers across Ontario. No matter what President Trump sends our way, we'll have your backs. We will be there for you to protect your jobs and paychecks and stand up for Canada. The Prime Minister has my full support in this decision to walk away from a bad deal that would have hurt Canadian workers and undermined Canadian sovereignty. And he has my full support to hit back tariff for tariff, dollar for dollar. But let's be clear, this will not be easy. To stand up for Canada, to stand up against President Trump, we have to withstand the economic pain that will come with this fight. I promise you our government will be there, doing whatever we can to keep costs down, cut taxes, support workers and families, and protect Ontario jobs. But we need all levels of government working with us to lower cost and get through this fight. That includes municipal leaders like Mayor Horvath, who I am so glad to welcome her here today. And Mayor, We just handed over a $572 million check, and I know it's going to go into infrastructure to build more affordable homes like we're here in this neighborhood. And it means the federal government also needs to step up with major support and regulatory change. In response to these tariffs, the federal government needs to work with us to take urgent action to strengthen the competitiveness of key Ontario industries. We need to eliminate federal greenhouse gas emissions standards for Canadian-made vehicles and exempt tariff-impacted sectors from federal emissions performance standards, which together add hundreds of millions of dollars in compliance costs for Canadian businesses. Tariff rate quotas on steel imports need to be dropped to zero on countries that do not have free trade agreements with Canada, and to 12% on countries that do have a free trade agreement. And of course, the federal government needs to invest significantly to support our auto, steel, and manufacturing industries, redirect revenues from our counter tariffs on the U.S. to tariff-impacted workers and businesses, and cut taxes to increase Canada's competitiveness and attract new investment. If President Trump escalates, Canada needs to be ready to do the same. Everything needs to be on the table. We need to use Canada's many points of leverage to create maximum impact, targeting deep red states and making sure that America's economy feels the pain. And make no mistake, Americans are already feeling the pain, because President Trump's tariffs are nothing more than a tax on the American people, raising the cost of everything from homes to food and making life more uncertain for the tens of millions of Americans who depend on trade with Canada to bring home their paycheck. Canada did not start this fight, but we're prepared to win it. Team Canada needs to stand united, stand up to this attack on our economy, use our leverage to protect our workers, and make clear to President Trump that Canada is not for sale. As I've always said, we can't control President Trump, but we can control the choices we make here in Ontario. And from day one, our choices have been to build the most competitive, resilient, and self-reliant economy in the G7. Since April of last year, we've announced nearly $30 billion in relief and support for Ontario workers and businesses impacted by tariffs. We're diversifying our trade away from the United States, reshoring critical supply chains, and supporting workers who've been impacted by tariffs. We've also stepped up to support small businesses with a $1.1 billion tax cut that is saving more than 375,000 small businesses up to $5,000 every year. And we're helping those businesses grow by breaking down internal trade barriers so Ontario businesses can sell to more Canadians and build a more united national economy. One of the key measures our government launched to protect workers and businesses affected by U.S. tariffs is our $1 billion Protect Ontario financing program. This program provides Ontario-based businesses hit by higher tariff rates with loans for things like payroll and utilities to keep workers on the job and keep businesses open. Today, I'm announcing that Ontario will immediately expand the program to businesses hit by President Trump's latest tariffs, including those producing electrical and mechanical equipment, plastic and paper products, packaging, furniture, beverages, including alcohol, and many more, so we can provide support where it's needed most and protect workers and businesses. Canada and Ontario have what the world wants, and we have what the United States needs. Despite the challenges we're facing, our economy is leading North America when it comes to job creation. In fact, over the last 4 months, our economy added nearly 120,000 new full-time jobs, Well, last month, the U.S. actually lost jobs. We have the resources, the expertise, and the world-class workers that are building the most resilient, self-reliant, and competitive economy anywhere in the world. Everything we need to protect Ontario's right here at home. So we aren't going to roll over. We're going to stand up for our country. We're going to do whatever it takes to protect every family, business, and worker in this province. I want to thank you, and may God bless the people of Ontario. Thank you so much.
We will now take
it's
questions from
gonna
the
get
media.
better.
Media present can line
Or
up and ask their
worse.
question through the microphone.
just
As a friendly
bad.
reminder, the format is one question and one follow-up. Please state your name and your outlet before your question. First question.
Good afternoon, Premier Mark McAllister from City News.
Hi, Mark.
You had called on the federal government to do quite a bit in that speech. At the same time, you have the opportunity to do something as a province. You've mentioned cutting off electricity, for example, in the past. There's the opportunity to cut off critical minerals. You've mentioned those things. What can we expect specifically from the province? And have you spoken with the Prime Minister about those things?
Well, Mark, I'll answer the first question. I was speaking to him as I was pulling up, and that's why I was a little delayed. I spoke to the Prime Minister a few minutes ago. We're all part of Team Canada, and we're going to have further discussions. We're putting teams together across Canada to make sure we're all on the same page. As for the electricity, everything's on the table. Critical minerals, everything's on the table. But I can't do this alone, folks. I need every premier playing on Team Canada. And I'm confident that every single premier will be part of Team Canada.
You also you've announced the expansion of one of the measures that you had already implemented to help businesses and individuals. I'm just curious, among those different programs that you had already implemented, what kind of effectiveness you've had to this point? Because there doesn't seem to be a whole lot coming back in terms of information to us in terms of how effective things have been over the last year or so.
Well, thanks for that question, Mark. You know, I think it's been very effective. Ontario led North America in job creation last month with 52,000 jobs. And that's during uncertain times. Even when we have certain times, those are record numbers. Over the last 4 months, we've created another 120,000 jobs, attracting investment from all over the world, well over $230 billion. And I want to give a shout out to Minister Vic Fideli that travels around the world. He sends me a message every single day, 365 days a year, about companies investing billions, hundreds of millions, tens of millions, and even millions, even the small businesses. So we have to create the climate and the conditions to attract new investment here, which we have over the last 8 years. And an additional million people are working today than they were in 2018. We are leaders when it comes to nuclear, small modular reactors. We're leading the G7, large-scale nuclear that we're building, which everyone needs, including our neighbors south of the border, want our energy. Folks, remember, we power 1.5 million homes and businesses. What I find ironic about this is we're actually giving electricity to companies to make products to compete against us. That needs to stop. And we're going to address that. As this escalates, everything will be on the table. Our critical minerals, we have more than anyone in the entire world. And matter of fact, my minister, Greg Rickford, is making an announcement up in Narrowland First Nations to move the road forward to the Ring of Fire, to get those critical minerals out of the ground. But every single person in this province, in this country, has to play a role. When you go out shopping, look for Made Ontario, Made in Canada, or Made somewhere else in the world. Do your very best. And I know it's easy to say, but do your very best to look at the labels. And I know it's not always possible, but the people, the consumers play a massive role. Let's put pressure on the Walmarts. Let's put pressure on the Loblaws, the Sobeys, the Metros. I'm naming the big retailers to buy Ontario products from Ontario. That's my recommendation, and I'm confident that everyone will follow suit. And that goes for the 444 municipalities. Make sure your procurement buys Ontario goods. And that goes for other companies too. No matter if it's the meters that they measure electricity. I'm calling out Electra. Make sure it's not American. Make sure it's Ontario or Canadian, because I keep hearing rumors that we're going to spend hundreds of millions down in the U.S. That cannot happen. And that's just one company out of many. But we need a Team Canada approach.
Hi, Premier. Rob Ferguson, Toronto Star.
Hi, Rob.
Hi there. Just wondering, since you've talked to the Prime Minister shortly before getting here, what did you talk about the 25% electricity surtax?
See, if that was Trump, who are you with? Toronto Star. Fake news. You're low IQ. You're a fake reporter. That's what he would say. Communist publication.
Bringing that back. Did you talk about bringing the Reagan ad, and if bringing it back, and if so, what did he say?
Well, I did talk about playing a Team Canada approach, making sure that no matter if it's our electricity that we ship down there, but many other provinces' electricity and other areas that we can really put pain on the U.S., no matter if it's the oil or if it's potash or if it's uranium, any of those. I am going to have a call with Danielle Smith at the end of the day here, or 4 o'clock, roughly, have a discussion and get her opinion on what we need to do to protect Canadian workers. So it has to be a Team Canada approach. Everyone has to be singing off the same song sheet, and there can't be any detractors, because I know that every single Canadian wants to protect our sovereignty, wants to protect jobs in their communities. So we're going to work collectively together.
Okay, so it sounds like you're not going to freelance any of these moves. You're going to do it in conjunction and with perhaps with the approval of the feds.
But it is on the table, and he agreed.
Okay.
I said that electricity surcharge is going to be on the table. I'll hold off on the ads for now. I don't want to escalate it anymore, but we need to fight back.
Okay, I was just wondering, you sound a little more subdued than you did this morning on the radio when you said Donald Trump could kiss your ass. Did the Prime Minister tell you to ask you to tone it down a bit?
No, he didn't. I'm not going to comment, but he wasn't against that. And I have a lot of real estate on my ass, so he has a lot of room to kiss my ass. So well done. I just do. I'm a big dude. What can I say?
Premier Sean Jefford, CBC News. I know you haven't had an opportunity to see this, but we were just looking at a very fresh post here from President Trump on Truth Social, taking aim at you personally, taking shots at you, suggesting you should fall in line, that you were a flunky of the Prime Minister. Do you want to respond to these shots? What would you say to the president?
No, I don't respond to a dictator like President Trump, a bully like President Trump. As I said before, he's the type of guy in school that would take your lunch money one day, take your toque off your head the next day, and then steal your running shoes. But I'm not going to take any advice off a guy that's the king of bankruptcies. And he's actually tariffing his own people, taxing his own people. And I'm going to make sure I communicate through the U.S. media. I'm going to be reaching out to every single governor, every single senator, and every single congressperson. And when it comes to the midterms, I have a message to the Americans. Don't vote in a person that's going to kill your jobs. He ran on creating more jobs. Last time I checked, jobs went down in the U.S. and Ontario created more jobs. He ran on reducing the cost of living. Last time I checked, food's more expensive down there. Homes are more expensive. And the reason homes are more expensive because he has a tariff on our lumber, which 33% of all homes that are built in the U.S. use Canadian lumber. So I'm not going to take lessons off President Trump. He's the last guy that I would take any lessons off. And it's about Team Canada. We'll see how this goes. But he wants to put pain on Canadians. We'll leverage every bit of pain we possibly can on Americans. And you know what I feel bad for? I've always said I love the American people. I still stand by that statement because there's a lot of people in the U.S. that are calling me saying, way to go, keep going. You know, your own people, President Trump, don't even like you. And they're going to speak loud and clear when it comes to the midterms. And if I was allowed to, I'd be down there door knocking.
Premier, you mentioned a number of times today that tariffs are a tax on Americans. If that principle stands, and I'm sure it does here in Canada as well, how do you impose retaliatory tariffs without impacting Canadians, spending here?
That's good point. It is going to hurt. That's the cost of war. We have two choices, folks. We either roll over and he dismantles Canada and he says 51st state. We'll never be the 51st state. We'll do whatever it takes to protect our sovereignty. We're proud Canadians. And I'll tell you one thing.
Look, at the end of that's what it's about. It's about the 51st state. That's why it's coming out. That's why it's coming out of his mouth right now. That's why it keeps coming up. It isn't about economics. Trump uses tariffs and economic warfare as a tool of war. And we are at war. He's at war with Iran, but he's given up bombing them. So he's gone back to economic warfare. That's what he does. He's weaponized the U.S. economy. So our dependence, our integration with the United States has become a liability instead of a strength. Because our best friend, our top trading partner, which we put all of our trust in, is now being run by a guy who simply can't be trusted.
You know, we'll wait it out for 2 years. We'll wait it out for 2 years, even if he lasts 2 years, but we'll wait it out. And hopefully they'll come to their senses when they see the pain he's putting on the American people. And we have to focus on the red states. And folks, I know up here, red is liberal.
Except that the last time anything on this scale happened, I think, resulted in the Great Depression. So there's that.
Blue is conservative. It's opposite down there, just to explain to the people. The red states are Republican, blue are Democrat, but the red states, we're going to hit hard.
Hi, Premier Siobhan Morrissey.
Oh, by the way, the Great Depression, that's one of the factors that ultimately led to the Second World War. Just saying.
TV News.
Hi, Siobhan.
I just wanted to sort of figure out your thinking about how you thread this needle with the president taking very specific aim at you in deeply personal ways.
Good.
Well, also, why is that good?
Well, good. He can, something. I've been in this game a lot longer than he has. I got skin on me like an alligator. And you think an insult from him hurts me? Well, bring it on, buddy. I'm ready. Bring it on. You know something? I've dealt with guys like you my whole life. And guess what? You all become losers because you're a loser.
Are you worried when you hit back that way that you are making Ontarians and Canadians vulnerable because he is such an unpredictable figure?
We have two choices, Siobhan. We either roll back and let him take over our country, watch the steel sector bleed out, watch the auto sector bleed out, the auto part manufacturers bleed out, all the manufacturers bleed out. That's his game. But we aren't going to play his game. We're not playing his game. Folks, we're an economic powerhouse. Make no mistake about it. He says he doesn't need Canada. I'd love to see, he wants to take our auto sector. I'd love to see him run cars without any oil. I'd love to see, him try to grow vegetables and fruit and everything without the potash. I'd like to see when we have our critical minerals. Matter of fact, high-grade nickel, that 65% comes from Ontario for their military, for their manufacturing. But that's not my message to the American people. My message to the American people, let's create Fortress North America. Let's make the pie larger. Let's create more opportunities and more jobs. We buy more autos, 400% more autos than anyone in the entire country, in the world. So now the choice is, do we keep buying American vehicles? And that's very personal to people. So, where we can, let's try to buy Canadian. But they'll have multiple auto plants closed down if that's the case. He says he wants to attack the auto part manufacturers. Like, maybe he just doesn't understand how parts go back and forth 8 times. It would actually shut down your auto plants in the U.S. But we need to hear from the American people. We need to hear from the governors and the senators, which we have heard from northern governors, that this will hurt them. It's not going to help them. And I've heard from Republican and Democrats, this is not good.
And you mentioned that everything remains on the table if things were to get worse. What would worse look like? Do you have a line in mind already?
Well, if it gets really, really bad, I say everything's on the table. I cannot speak for other premiers. But a couple premiers have a lot of power to protect Canada. massive power. And I can't speak for them, but we need everyone to be on Team Canada and throw everything in the kitchen sink at them, no matter if it's electricity, if it's fuel, again, if it's potash or uranium. We need to have everything on the table, but we need a buy-in from coast to coast to coast. And we'll work together with the other premiers. I know the Prime Minister will, but we could put massive pain on the U.S. President Trump underestimates us, and that's the biggest mistake, underestimating your opponent.
Hi, Premier. Jeff Gray, Globe and Mail. I just wanted to go back into the events of the last few days. You mentioned on Saturday that you did not like the deal from the start. But can you clarify just when was it Friday that you told the Prime Minister no, I'm going to leave the booze ban in place?
Well, right from Wednesday, I said it wasn't a good deal, but I'm always willing to be on Team Canada. And as the week went on, I spoke to the CEOs from the auto sector, auto part manufacturers, the CEO. And I want to give a shout out to Ron Bedard, a true leader. He's the chair of all the steel manufacturers. He is a champion for Canada. He was up till midnight the other night, but I've never believed in this deal from day one. And I'm so glad that the Prime Minister, and I know there was other situations that happened, that he took our advice. Not just my advice when he talked to CEOs, be it Ron Bedard or auto manufacturers. He made the right call. You know, you have a little pain for long-term gain. And yeah, there's going to be a little bit of pain, but we're going to be there. The federal government's going to be there. The provincial government is going to be there to support companies, diversify our trade, lower cost of taxation and regulation, and make ourselves more competitive. I'm confident when my minister, Vic Fideli, goes around the world and talks to companies, they look at Ontario as a safe haven, pro-business, cutting red tape, creating more opportunities for their companies to grow and thrive and prosper. And that's why we're fortunate enough to see 120,000 people employed, full-time jobs in the last 4 months.
But Premier, was it advice, or did you say I'm not lifting the booze ban, so this deal is going to be is not going to happen? And did you make those things we talked about the other day, and you mentioned today, the environmental, tailpipe issue, yes, and the industrial carbon tax? Did you make those preconditions for accepting any sort of deal?
The day and the night, I did tell him I can't support it. I can't go to DeFasco and look a steel worker in the eyes, knowing that if we took this deal, he wouldn't have a job in a couple of years. I couldn't go to the auto part manufacturers and the auto companies and looking up the auto workers in the eyes and say, you aren't going to have a job in a couple of years. The total opposite. They're going to have jobs for long-term in the steel industry. They're going to have long-term jobs in the auto sector. So I have to go with my conscience. I have to go with what I believe in protecting people.
Matt Christie, the Hamilton Spectator.
Hi, Matt.
Hi. In light of the threatened new 50% tariff on steel, what measures is your government contemplating to protect steel workers in Hamilton and the Ontario steel industry?
Well, we'll be there for anything they need. We're going to protect them through financial support, and we're going to be there for them to make sure that they're going to be competitive. But they're going to feel the pain too, because who is the number one customer for steel in the U.S.? Canada is. Ontario is. So they're going to feel the pain in the steel sector as well down there. But we're going to protect them.
And the NDP is calling on you to immediately recall the legislature to pass emergency relief for Ontario workers. Do you plan to recall the legislature?
No, I find that real ironic to start doing gutter politics in this time, that they want us to call the legislature back, that they actually voted against every single thing we've done for the last year to protect Ontario. Every recommendation they gave, they voted against. So I find it pretty hypocritical. We have a job to protect Ontario, protect communities, and protect companies. That's what I'm focused on. Folks, I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm going at 6 a.m. I don't stop till midnight, after midnight. And the death of me is going to be my cell phone. I get 1,000 messages a day. So my message to the people out there, I apologize if I can't get back to you right away. I do my very best. I return as many calls as possible. I love people that send me ideas. And I have certain groups. I have certain groups that call you up and say, you're a bad guy. Fine. Isn't that great democracy? You can actually call a premier up and tell him he's a bad guy or whatever. Then I have the second group that says, I love you, keep going and keep moving. And that's the number one comment that I get when I'm out there talking to thousands of people, no matter if it's going into a store or going into events. Everyone says, you're doing a great job, keep going and don't stop. That's the single number one message. And then I have people that send me ideas, which I love. And then there's frequent flyers that want to call you every day or every second day. Those frequent flyers, just hang in there, and I appreciate everyone's calls. But it's overload. I think I'm behind 11,540 as of today. They're coming in every single minute. So just bear with me, folks. I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can.
Hi, Premier. Fatma Sayed with the Narwhal. In your letter to the Prime Minister, you wrote that you'd like Ontario's considering exempting tariff-impacted sectors from emissions performance standards.
Yes.
Today, you've asked for the elimination of some of them. At the same time, you've often said that companies come to Ontario because of our clean manufacturing pitch. So how do you reconcile those two positions?
Very
and
simple.
Are you now willing to weaken climate rules that were part of that pitch?
No, it's very simple. We have the cleanest grid in the entire world, folks. 90%. I'm going to pass this over to Sam Oosterhoff that takes care of the energy file, but 90%. We were at 94, and then we had to refurbish a couple of the plants via Pickering. It dropped down to 90, but our goal is to continue leading the world in clean energy with nuclear energy and other forms of energy. That will bring us up to close to 100%. So that's not a problem. What we have to do is create the climate for companies that come here knowing that they're going to have to pay hundreds of millions of dollars. I'll give you one example. Dofasco, in 4 years, they'll be paying $500 million. Do you know what happens? They're up. Talk to Mr. Mattel, the owner of the largest steel company in the world. He'll get up, see you later, and go down south. That they don't have it. But I'm all for making sure we have a clean environment. We're spending tens of billions of dollars to make that happen. We're going to continue investing in nuclear energy that has zero emissions, clean, green, reliable, cost-effective energy. That's why everyone, you see the whole shift in the world, especially in the U.S., are going to nuclear. We have the best in the world. Sam, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Premier. The Premier is absolutely right. We are committed to defending workers, defending industries and jobs, but we should make no apologies about having one of the cleanest grids in the world. And we have a clear plan laid out in the Integrated Energy Plan, Energy for Generations, that Minister Lecce and the Premier announced last year, that gets us to 99% emission-free power by 2050 as we build out small modular reactors. You saw our recent procurements, the long-term procurements, where we secure more renewables, more battery storage. In the meantime, we do go through a dip in the late 2020s and into the early 2030s as we build out all of this industry, as we build out our new nuclear, as we build out a massive expansion that supports 180,000 good jobs. Be under no illusions. Those are jobs that are supported by Canadian content, Ontario content. We're going to double down on building out a clean, reliable source of power that we have in our nuclear sector, that we have in our renewable sector. But Minister Fedeli can tell you, our plan to get to 99% emissions free by 2050 doesn't mean that we have to force businesses like ArcelorMittal Dofasco, like other producers. I'm going to be in Sarnia tomorrow with Minister Lecce, folks who are producing fertilizer in Sarnia, for example, to force them to pay billions and billions of dollars. It's really a premium on the cost of doing business if that's maintained, when we know how important it is to not only get to that net zero or that 99% plus zero emissions grid that we have, a plan to achieve. We don't need to tax workers, tax industry, and ultimately put more cost on the backs of those industries in the meantime. We can do it both.
Okay, now I'm going to ask Minister Vic Fedeli to come up and talk about what people say to you when you're overseas about Ontario.
Thank you very much. When I look at Minister Oosterhoff, it reminds me of the session that we had in Europe with a company called Young Bunzlauer. And Thank you, Sam. And the importance of coming to Ontario for that clean energy, for the talent, the raw talent that we have, the skilled talent that we have, the 90,000 STEM grads that we produce every year. This is why these companies come. Sitting in front of a room in Switzerland with Roche, 150 managers from around the world assembled, listening to a pitch from Ontario that we are a safe jurisdiction, we're reliable, we're dependable, and unlike the United States, we are predictable. And that's why we were able to land their latest large multi-hundred employee business here. These are the kinds of companies that we continue to bring. Last year, we landed $35 billion here in Ontario from 750 companies who alone hired 64,000 people. And for the companies here in Ontario, the same message goes for them. We always have this clean energy, talent, land, servicing, protection. The Protect Ontario Fund last year, the Ontario Together Trade Fund, $150 million protected 89 companies who then invested $1 billion of their own money here in Ontario, as the Premier said, in very uncertain times. 89 companies, 89 Ontario companies pivoted and began onshoring. Things they were having made in the States, they're now making themselves. That's going to be our success.
Cans.
Doing it.
Cans.
Tin cans. Premier was on us on day one. Why don't we make cans in Ontario? We went to France, met with a company called Massili. They're manufacturing their plant here in Ontario, in Brantford, right now. Sandvik, a company in
Sweden.
I wanted to say Finland, but it's Sweden. I'm getting them confused today, I can tell you. Company in Sweden, $85 million investing in a plant in Sudbury, Ontario. These are the kind of successes that we keep having, whether it's in South Korea or Japan or in Germany. These are the kinds of successes because Ontario, because Premier Ford, because our team has created the conditions for these businesses to be set up for success.
Thank you. Sorry. No, that's all right. That's good.
With all due respect, I appreciate the clean energy argument and the pitch that all the ministers just made. But this is about climate rules for industry. Your government has given hundreds of millions of public money to companies like Dofasco to help them decarbonize. And right now, we are in tough times, and the first thing you're calling for is an exemption or an elimination of the same standards that would incentivize companies like Dofasco to move toward cleaner production rules and fewer emissions. So how do you explain that to taxpayer money, taxpayers who have footed the bill for that green industrial strategy?
I think we just explained that, but what we're focusing on is making sure that we survive. This is about survival right now, and we're going to do both. It's not either and, or it's and. We're going to lead the world in clean energy, and we're going to make it competitive for companies to come here and invest. It's as simple as that. But again, I appreciate your compliment on being the leader in the world on clean energy. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Premier Steve Cornwell here from the Chilean.
Okay.
Just on what the opposition is saying around recalling the legislature, they're saying that they want to work with you on a plan and kind of contribute to what the government can do to respond to this situation if it gets really bad. I guess my question is, what would be the harm in kind of calling the legislature back in the midst of this kind of 5-month break?
I've been in this game a long time. They want to play gutter politics. They voted against every single item that we did for the last year to protect Ontario. I am swamped right now. It's an 18-hour-a-day job with myself and my ministers. If they have suggestions, call me up. Everyone else calls me up. And by the way, I left one group out, the people that need help. I help people every single day on multitude issues. But call me up, give me suggestions. But make sure when we go back in the legislature, because we will be going back in our time frame, that they actually support things that we put forward, no-brainers. But they vote against absolutely everything. They want to play politics. I want to play, let's create jobs. Let's give people stability. Let's make sure that we have a stable environment and certainty. That's what I want to do. And that's exactly what we're doing. But we're going full steam.
In terms of all options being on the table here, one of the larger contracts that the province has signed procurement-wise this past few months was with Staples, which is owned by a U.S. equity firm. It's in the neighborhood of north of $60 million to supply Ontario schools with through the teachers kind of supply portal. Is that a contract that at this stage you would consider reconsidering based on how this trade spat is working out with the U.S.?
Not at all, because they employ thousands and thousands of people. It's like saying, don't buy a Ford car or General Motors car. They're American. No, I disagree. If you employ people here in Ontario, you're giving them a paycheck that can go back into the economy. And all the supplies, we'll do everything we can to buy Ontario. It's in the legislation. And we're going to continue doing that. So it's like saying, don't shop at Walmart. No, shop at Walmart. They employ hundreds of thousands of people. So I don't buy that argument whatsoever. Matter of fact, I want more companies from the U.S. to come up, set up shop here. I want companies from around the world to set up shop here. That's what I want. So any American company down there, come up and set up shop and create jobs. And what a great jurisdiction to set up shop in Ontario, the engine of Canada.
Hey, good afternoon, Premier Manhamid with the Canadian Press. You just said 10 minutes ago that electricity going to the United States should stop. Can you expand on that? And is this a long-term goal for you or a short-term goal?
I think we start off with a surcharge. If it escalates, we have to use every tool in our toolbox. We aren't the only one that sends electricity down to the U.S. New Brunswick does, Quebec does, BC does, Manitoba does, just to name a few. So we need to get together, all together, and decide if we're going to put surcharges on the electricity. How can we let them take really inexpensive electricity to make goods to compete and take jobs from Canadians? You can't square that circle. So we'll use every tool in our toolbox. Then we'll see if President Trump says, do I need Canada? Watch how he does cartwheels and he shouts and screams when we put the surcharge on. Matter of fact, I can't wait. I cannot wait. Let's be clear. I don't like the guy. Simple.
On that note, do you see a pathway to resolution of this current trade war? And
I hope so.
Is it realistic to see that happening soon?
I hope so, because I bet if I took a poll down in the U.S., that poll would say, we don't want to attack our best customer, our largest customer, our closest friend, our closest ally that has fought shoulder to shoulder in wars against us, always supported us. And I believe that he'd get hammered on that poll. Matter of fact, we should do a poll down in the U.S., I think, just to send it out there. But, I don't believe the American people feel the same way, at least the ones I talk to, and I talk to thousands, feel the same way. So let's see what happens in the midterms.
This will be the last reporter.
Hi, Adam Atkinson, CHCH News. I just want to get your reaction to Trump's latest Truth Social post. Came down about 20 minutes ago. I wish I could do his voice, but I can't, so I'll just do it normal. Lots of bluster from Doug Ford, who is better known as the less charismatic, intelligent, and overall unimpressive brother of the late, great Rob Ford. So you guys aren't going to be best friends. Let's get your reaction to that.
Well, I can go back and forth with Trump. I'm just not going to take the bait. This guy's a loser. He's going to be a loser. And simple as that. We're going to fight with everything we have. And something? I have more courage, more brains in my baby toe than he has in his whole body. So there you go.
That concludes our media questions today.
Well, folks, thank you so much. I want to thank everyone here. I want to thank the builders. I want to thank Mars Homes. I want to thank the mayor. She's a champion. She's leading the whole province now. Did you know that, guys? 444 municipalities. She is cut down to 0 DCs. And congratulations, Mayor. Thank you. She's going to cut red tape like we are. We're still going to create more jobs than anywhere in North America. We're going to make sure we're prosperous, even with Donald Trump, the tyrant, coming after us. But isn't this great? He's going in 2 years, and he might even be going sooner if the Dems get their act together and win the midterms. So everyone down there, independents, Republicans and Democrat, kick this bully out of office. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
The baby toe one was pretty good. It's pretty bad. Pretty damn bad. I think we've got a compilation video to share with you. Yeah, it's right here. I think CBC put this together. A compilation of Doug Ford's greatest insults for Donald Trump. I hope they put the baby toe thing in. I don't know if it's my favorite. I think it's my favorite so far.
I don't respond to a dictator like President Trump, a bully like President Trump. He's the type of guy in school that would take your lunch money one day, take your toque off your head the next day, and then steal your running shoes. I'm not going to take any advice off a guy that's the king of bankruptcies. You know, your own people, President Trump, don't even like you. And they're going to speak loud and clear when it comes to the midterms. And if I was allowed to, I'd be down there door knocking. I've dealt with guys like you my whole life. And guess what? You all become losers because you're a loser. I have more courage, more brains in my baby toe than he has in his whole body. I've been in this game a lot longer than he has. I got skin on me like an alligator. And you think an insult from him hurts me? Well, bring it on, buddy. I'm ready. Bring it on. I have a lot of real estate on my ass, so he has a lot of room to kiss my ass. I don't respond to a dictator like President Trump, a bully like President Trump. He's the type of guy in school that would take your lunch money one day, take your toque off your head the next day, and then steal your running shoes. I'm not going
to just put that on a loop and just let it roll. I don't know. I didn't know that President Trump was a toque stealer. I've got more. I have more. Don't go away. We won't run any long form stuff after this. That was a long one. But I wanted to run the whole shebang because today was a little piece of history in the making, I think, with the insults flying from Doug Ford, a day that I will remember for a long time.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
All right. Danielle Smith, Premier of Alberta. Is she on Team Canada? Here's what she posted tonight, just a few hours ago. Canadians have every reason to be upset with the breakdown in the trade negotiations with the United States. The U.S. tariffs are harmful to both countries and are straining one of the most successful trading relationships on earth. Canada now faces significant job losses, and Alberta will do our part to help Canadian businesses, workers, and families during these uncertain times. Today, I had an opportunity to talk to Ontario Premier Doug Ford. I recognize that these tariffs have a disproportionate impact on Ontario businesses, and I've offered my support on how we can constructively work together to strengthen the Canadian economy. A strong energy sector creates a strong Canada. It can provide the revenue all levels of government need to support other impacted sectors. In other words, she ain't doing nothing. We're selling the oil. We're going to sell it all. We're going to sell extra more and then more on the extra because there's no way we're not helping. That's why we are committed to accelerating the construction of pipelines. That's right. Build the pipelines. No, screw the rest of you. basically, is what this message is, including the Northern Shield Pipe. And we're not paying any taxes. We're going to help you, but don't look for any money because it all stays here. We're getting ripped off. Where have I heard that line recently? Including the Northern Shield Pipeline from Alberta to Ontario and the oil pipeline to the West Coast and other critical export infrastructure. Go get your own oil, Doug. As I've said in the past, she continues here saying, cutting off Alberta energy exports to the U.S. would be extremely harmful to Canadians and is not a viable option. Not even for 24 hours? No. Well, she might be right. Then again, I don't know. Right now, our focus must be on immediate action, supporting affected workers and businesses, dismantling interprovincial trade barriers, strong diplomacy. Diplomacy. And didn't sound very diplomatic today on any side. And continuing to grow our export markets. I look forward to discussing these constructive strategies with Prime Minister Mark Carney and Canada's premiers, whereupon I will tell them that we aren't doing squat. You guys are on your own, man, because we're Alberta and we've already separated. We just haven't done it formally yet. Well, at least that's what she thinks. Kate Harrison here, just doing a little scroll down X. I don't know. What's she saying?
So I think that it's premature to say whether or not it was the right decision or the wrong decision to walk away. Having an absence of information and not having the details around that deal, I think the Prime Minister is operating from a trust deficit, particularly on details around these things because of how he treated the Gordie Howe Bridge and because he was loose with the facts. About what that was going to mean for the Canadian side. So particularly when you're operating from that kind of a deficit, transparency is owed. And yes, it is exceptional and it is unprecedented to talk about these negotiating parameters in public. This is a very unprecedented situation. And so if there is a time for transparency, it is now. So I think that
we'll see. Yes, and maybe no, hard to really, I don't know. You're Stephen Leachy.
Whatever it takes. That's the message from our premier. He had a lot to say today, as you know, but the main message was that whatever it takes to defend our families and the key industries under attack from this most recent insane assault from President Trump. When you're up against a bully, you stand up for yourself. You defend yourself. You safeguard your interests. And that's what Premier Ford is doing.
By the way, this is the Minister of Energy and Mines, just in case you didn't know.
Saying we got to be united, but we've got to demonstrate to the people of this province that our workers, that our businesses, the livelihoods that depend on them, that we will make sure that we're there for you. Whatever it takes, we will not spare an expense. And that's the message I want you to hear, to have hope and confidence that your government and governments at all levels are working together in your interest, to stand up for ourselves, for our sovereignty, and to send a clear message to the president. As our premier did today, he's got more real estate than I do, but I think he speaks for us all when he says we got to stand strong and defend the true north strong and free. Whatever.
Here's the governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer.
He hates Canadians. Now, our largest trading partner is Canada. And our president, for some reason, has decided he hates Canadians. Now, I don't know who hates Canadians. They're like the in-laws that you like. You know? But the constant rhetoric, the ever-changing tariffs that are punitive and unpredictable and just are thrown out by tweet has probably hurt the Michigan economy more than any other state. Autos go back and forth over the bridge to Canada 8 times before they're finished. And there's 50% tariffs right now on many parts of those autos and hockey sticks of all things. You know, like this is how capricious it is. And so I share that because I think that people are worried that, is their job still gonna be here in 6 months from now or 2 months from now? What's the next tweet that could mean layoffs at our plant because it is just one more chilling effect?
Yeah, it's not good on either side. And there's the post from Trump, posted by Brian Lilly. Lots of bluster from Doug Ford, who is the premier of the Canadian province of Ontario, but who is better known as the less charismatic, intelligent, and overall unimpressive brother of the late, great Rob Ford. America has been carrying Canada for decades, but no longer. The USA will always be far bigger, richer, and stronger than Canada. I don't know about that. There's certainly more in debt, 40 trillion and climbing. I think maybe that's the problem. Without the United States, Canada couldn't survive. Are you sure? It's where they get all of their money. And because of their current bad leadership, primarily Governor Carney and his flunky Ford, they will not be allowed to keep taking advantage of the United States. They're key to survival. Remember, much of the electricity, oil, and gas that Canada gets is transported. They're key to survive. United States, they're key to survive. Remember, much of the electricity, oil, and gas that Canada gets is transported through the USA. Someone should get these clowns to fall in line, or the consequences for Canada will be far worse. All caps. Canada's unemployment rate is now at 10% and rapidly rising. The businesses are fleeing for the United States, and it's all because of their failed policies and inept leadership. The days of ripping off our farmers and other businesses are over. Thank you for your attention on this matter. So you just remember that, Canada. You better fall in line. Do as you're told, or else. You got it? You know who's the boss? You do what I say, or else. Screw you, Canada. We will take what we want and then decide if we blow you to kingdom come. Wow. Yeah, and there's Vance again calling Canada a state. That is not an accident. Polyev calling on the government here to release the details of the deal, what was on the table. Laura Loomer. Americans have no ill will towards Canada, but at some point enough is enough. The PRC, People's Republic of China, are behaving like a bunch of absolute punks. It's time for President Trump to levy devastating tariffs on Canada and begin the process of expelling Canada from the Five Eyes intelligence sharing partnership. We should also immediately freeze the sale of F-35s, P-8 Poseidons, and HIMARS missile systems to Canada. Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, recently announced a new strategic partnership with China. And now he's boldly declared that he is at war with the United States of America. How many members of Carney's coalition have been bribed by the Chi-Coms? I don't know, Laura. Why don't you show some receipts on that? Tell us what I don't know. Do you have some evidence to show that people have been bribed by the Chi-Coms? If so, cough it up. I'd be very interested in seeing it. Has Carney himself taken bribes from China? I don't know. It's an interesting question. Why would you ask such a question? Do you have proof of that? Are you asking the question because you have some evidence of something? Or are you just asking the question to cause problems, to plant the idea in someone's mind because it's a great big mind F? I mean, if somebody's got something, if a journalist has real information, just show it. Why are you asking a question? If you don't have the answer, that's crap. These are questions we need answers to. Okay, then go get the answers. And until we get those answers, he says, there should be a total shutdown on defense and intelligence cooperation with Canada. Huh. Wow. Doesn't feel very friendly. Don't feel, and there's Carney with Xi Jinping. So it proves everything. Of course, I could show you a picture of Trump with him too. A bunch of them, video, just recently visited. Wow. Wow. Yeah. So Carney today announcing, I think it was $11 billion for the construction of manufacture of icebreakers to a Quebec company, and 11 billion. And he took a jab too, I think, at Trump, the U.S. administration, trolling them because, you know, as much as they want Canada to be the 51st state and take over or annex us or whatever, or just take control of the Arctic so that they can control any shipping that goes through that area. Carney rightly pointed out today that the United States, he says, well, maybe one icebreaker. How are they going to do that? Canada, it seems, is a little stronger up there than maybe even the U.S.
This fall, we will begin intense discussions with the European Union, the world's second largest economy, to build a much stronger and deeper economic and security partnership. Now, we can build such unparalleled access because we're trusted, because we're reliable, and because we have what the world wants. This fall, we will begin.
It is true. Trust is imperative if you're going to build an economy, build trading relationships. Nobody trusts the United States anymore. I said to somebody today, it just seems to me like Trump behaves as though he isn't really on America's side at all, because so much of what he is doing is actually destroying the U.S., damaging it, the economy, relationships, alliances. He's tearing it all apart, tearing it all down. He treats America's enemies better than he treats America's friends. I don't think it's an accident at all. Besant posting here, in the Second World War, D-Day marked the historic beginning of a campaign with our allies to target and drive the enemy from its positions, including those in third countries. Today, in that same spirit, we are launching an economic onslaught against Iran's financial connections around the globe. Our objective is to sever every economic lifeline that sustains this tyrannical regime until Tehran stands alone. President Trump has taken action to his predecessors have long deferred. Under his leadership, America is no longer managing the Iranian threat. We are ending it. Those who stand with the United States will reap the rewards of our partnership. Those who tether themselves to Tehran should expect to share in the isolation of a withering regime. You could pretty much, that's what he posted today on X. You could kind of take the word Canada and just insert it in there wherever he put Iran or Tehran, and it would kind of come across pretty much the same way.
Good afternoon. Today, at President Trump's direction, the United States Treasury has begun Operation Economic Outcast, an unprecedented campaign against the Islamic Republic of Iran and its enablers. In the Second World War, D-Day marked the historic beginning of a campaign with our allies to target and drive the enemy from its positions, including those in third countries. Today, in that same spirit, we are launching an economic onslaught against Iran's financial connections around the globe. Our objective is to sever every economic lifeline that sustains this tyrannical regime until Tehran stands alone. Iran's fanatics devote themselves to death to America and seek nuclear weapons to do just that. They have murdered and maimed more of our citizens and service members than any other terrorist regime on earth. And they have been at war against America, their neighbors in the Gulf, and much of the world for 47 years. President Trump has taken action that his predecessors have long deferred. And under his leadership, America is no longer managing the Iranian threat. We are ending it. Our great armed forces have laid the groundwork for achieving the President's objective of preventing Iran from ever obtaining nuclear weapons. They have shown America's resolve to finally end this threat. And the strength of America's economy under President Trump allows us to wage this sustained financial operation alongside the might of our military. Iran now faces a very clear choice with only two paths before them: complete global isolation and a subsistence economy, or a path back to normalcy with an opportunity to rejoin the global economy. Today, we are launching Operation Economic Outcast to foreclose every other option available to the Iranian regime. Treasury has mapped every node, every facilitator, and every network that Iran has used to smuggle oil and evade sanctions. Beginning today, the actions of Treasury and other agencies will tighten the noose and block every potential source of revenue that funds the IRGC and the evil Iranian regime. We are enforcing a zero leakage approach. There will be no minimal breathing space for the regime to rebuild its capacity to inflict terror against America and the world. The final refuge of this regime is the mistaken conclusion of nations that still finance the Iranian threat in the hopes of evading it. It is no longer acceptable to operate in the gray spaces of this conflict. Countries cannot claim they are blind to enabling this activity. Iran's enablers purchase, transport its petroleum. They facilitate the flow of its finances through exchange houses and free trade zones. They welcome Iran's flights and maintain registries on its behalf. They turn a blind eye to seaborne fuel transfers and overland transits. They condone illicit use of their banks, all the while concealing the extent of their complicity. The President is making phone calls to world leaders with specific requests to cease their interactions with the regime. We are already seeing results. Over the weekend, comments from Iranian leadership clearly acknowledged the effect of this campaign, and nations that facilitate any interactions with the regime should quickly heed our message. Those who stand with the United States will reap the rewards of our partnership. Those who tether themselves to the Iranian regime should expect to share in the isolation of a withering regime. Teams from Treasury, State, and the U.S. military are now meeting with their global counterparts to tell them that the United States expects action. Every country has a defined timeline to shut down activities we have identified. If they do not take action, we will do so unilaterally through Treasury authorities. For example, every branch of Bank Melay must be shuttered and dark. And let me be clear, any entity that facilitates money laundering on behalf of Iran will be removed from the U.S. dollar system. The clock just started ticking. The new sectoral sanctions determinations issued today target 5 of Iran's most vital lifelines that it exploits in other countries: digital assets, technology, gold, aviation, and shipping. These measures broaden secondary sanctions risk for anyone foolish enough to continue conducting business with this regime, and will accelerate the speed with which we pursue them. As I speak, Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control is also sanctioning over 60 entities, individuals, and vessels around the world that enable the Iranian regime to procure illicit nuclear and missile technology, conduct cyber operations, and generate oil revenue. This is a sustained campaign to collapse every last option for Iran. Let there be no ambiguity as to the position of the United States. An economic engagement of any kind with this murderous regime will expose those responsible to the full reach of American power. For decades, this regime has drawn strength from a calculus that regards Iranian retaliation as certain and American enforcement as negotiable. Under President Trump, that era is over. To the ordinary soldiers supporting this regime, as more and more of your paychecks stop or are supposedly just delayed, ask whether your commanders are leading your country to triumph or to ruin. And recall that the Berlin Wall fell when ordinary soldiers decided not to shoot at their own people. And to those who enable Tehran, do not discount the cost of testing Washington's resolve. No nation should expect to enjoy the rewards of our system while helping those who seek to destroy it. It is now a time for world leaders to make a decision between prosperity and isolation, peace and terror, America and Iran. The campaign we begin today will gather force with every day that follows, and it will not end until this regime stands alone. With that, I welcome your questions.
Oh boy. I need to think about that. I was aware that he'd made those statements today, but I didn't know the fullness of what he had said. That he just declared economic warfare, not just on Iran, but any country that does any kind of business with Iran, period. Any transactions, and now you'll be outcast. Removed from the US dollar system. That means an entire country. So I think you instantly now can pretty much say that Russia, China, because they're going to do business with them. They don't care. And they've got BRICS as an alternative to the Western financial system and trade. This will drive more countries into the wide open waiting arms of China and Russia, especially China, as I see it. While other countries may pull back, but holy crap. And if they're really going to enforce this, it will get complicated because you have transactions going on like crazy. And the thing is, I don't know how effective it ultimately will be, because with all of the sanctions that are already in place and the restrictions that the Trump administration has placed on Iran anyway, and for a long time, even during Biden, for a long time, the government of Iran has been relying on Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, to get around the U.S. financial attacks. That won't end. Decentralized currency, they won't stop. Can the U.S. attack that? This will be a test for the cryptocurrency system and decentralization. How private really is it? So far, it hasn't stopped Iran. It seems to me this is a very dangerous game to play because, again, you're weaponizing the U.S. economy. And if it doesn't go well, now the U.S. economy will be weakened over time because you're using it like the military and you're firing off missiles, right? In a kinetic war, in this case, you're beginning to trim off trading partners and even whole countries from your economic system. And as it contracts, there's less economic activity within it. There are fewer transactions, less money flowing back into the U.S. system through interest, through fees that are charged, through international settlements. This is really dangerous. And because you're using it as a weapon, a lot of countries that maybe are not in full alignment with the United States and would be concerned about their sovereignty because maybe the United States doesn't like what you're doing. So they're going to freeze your banks, freeze your bank accounts, freeze out the whole country, prevent you from trading with anybody else, squeeze you right out of the U.S. world financial system, which is no longer the only game in town. This is dangerous because a lot of countries, this will be one more reason for some countries to say, we're going to limit our exposure to America because they will try to control us. Better do this or else. Too much or else, or else, or else, or else, or else. This is why after World War II, we had NATO, why we had these international organizations set up so that there were rules between countries to preserve the sovereignty of all of the different countries of the world so that there wasn't one just dominant bully out there or several dominating everything through the use of their military might. It was all designed, we thought, to bring stability and peace to the whole world. It didn't really quite work, but seems like it was a hell of a lot better than what we're walking into now. And once again, this whole thing may be well-intentioned, but it also makes me wonder, whose side is Trump really on here? I don't think it's wise to constantly, continually, repetitively, as a habit, as a matter of routine, just to weaponize the country's economy. When you do that, man, you are taking a risk. You go to war in any fashion, and the unintended consequences are always unintended, unforeseen, difficult to predict how it will all pan out. Will it really end up isolating Iran to the point where they starve them out? The people will suffer and rise up against the government, sanctions, economic warfare. And I think this is really being done now on an unprecedented level. So we're into uncharted territory here, really. I mean, economics, trade, sanctions, tariffs, blockades, gunboat diplomacy, as they say, right? To some degree, this has been practiced through history. But now with digital technology, digital international settlements, the way the whole system is integrated, set up. So why do I get this bad feeling? Like the huge impending, like a huge disaster just looming because of this. U.S. like he acts like the United States can do whatever it wants. Like they control everything, even with $40 trillion in debt, which under these conditions, they can't ever pay it back. The only way they could possibly pay it back is to basically just print the money. And you know who pays for that? You, me, the world, inflation. It reduces the value of the money to nothing and shows the world as well that the United States can't be trusted, because what they end up doing will have to do if we, oh my God, to just pay off people with worthless money, to pay off the world. And then nobody will ever touch the US dollar again. It'll crash the dollar. A huge debt like this, and then you contract the economy through tariffs and economic sanctions, warfare, start expelling people from entire countries from your financial system if they don't comply, and some will not, which will make others nervous. And then everybody starts looking for alternatives. Trade where necessary, but pivot and go elsewhere. Trade with the United States out of necessity only, and trade with others through preference. And pay a premium even in other places to avoid the risk associated with trading with the United States in any capacity. Who wants to put your money into a U.S. bank if you are afraid that they're going to freeze it because they say that you've got fingerprints from Iran on you, or when they make some and maybe even false allegations against your country? And I'm seeing it here in Canada with bluster and even outright lies leveled against our country to make it look like we're compromised, taken over, under the control of hostile regimes rhetoric, all of it really just designed to put pressure on the Canadian government to comply. Because those kinds of statements, like the ginned up fentanyl drug threat from Canada, which isn't really even a thing. Not really. Rhetoric designed to undermine public confidence and further undermine trust in the government of Canada so that you don't support them, so that you will welcome them as the tanks roll down the streets and you'll run out with flowers to give to the soldiers for liberating us, or maybe hand one right over to, if not Tucker Carlson, then maybe Laura Loomer, who wants to clearly escalate things and isolate Canada. The greatest ally the United States really has and probably ever has had, along with Britain. But they can't get 1776 out of their frickin' heads. They want the glory of the revolution. Save the world by dominating it. There's some real insanity going on here. This isn't about economics. This is not about economics. We're all in a heap of trouble. This isn't going to stop. Are you picking up what I'm laying down? And you better get your head screwed on straight. Start looking at it straight. Because there's a whole lot of people out there screwing with your brain. Mass formation psychosis, baby. I even came up with a whole new word for it. I'm not going to share with you tonight. You got to come back. You got to come back. What am I going to leave you with tonight? I had more stuff, but it's late, and it's enough. Enough is enough is enough is enough. That's what the Canadian government told Trump. Enough is enough. That's what Champagne said on the radio today. He said, enough is enough. Yeah, it's true. Enough is enough. Absolutely freaking enough is enough. Yeah. Oh, I have one other thing to share with you before we go. Oh, it's a treat too. You're gonna love it. So let me cue up this here. Okay, we're good to go with that. And have you seen all the MAGA hats being burned lately? That stuff's ramped right up. Trump's in trouble. His approval rating way down. Nate Silver poll showing these extremely low levels. I was going to show you that stuff. I suppose I could, but really what it is that I want to show you is, oh, it's right here, I believe, if it's still there. Had it. Oh, maybe I lost it because the tab was left open too long. Well, I really wanted to share with you. Okay, hang on. Let me I'll take a short break, come back, and I'll probably have it for you. Don't go away. We got more coming.
Maverick News. The new wave in news. Donate at maverickdonations.com.
Okay. I have it. Okay. Now just, I don't recommend this and I'm not supporting it, but I'm showing it to you because there's more of this stuff flying around than you can shake a stick at. This, and now I'm making like Doug Fordisms. I have more in my little toe than you're going to see. Well, whatever. Lots of MAGA hats being burned and support for Trump waning. Even Laura Loomer, you know, I wonder about her, but we've seen, you know, she pivoted on, flipped 180 on Ukraine. Strange. Tucker Carlson distancing himself and, you know, apologizing for ever supporting Trump, who Trump now also calls low IQ. So, you know, that's more WWE politics being played, very dramatic in this reality program, pseudo fake post-truth reality that we live in. And then there's this stuff on social media. Show it to you just to show how low you can go. How low you can go when you can't go no lower. If it ain't a war of words between Doug Ford and Donald Trump, it's doggy doo-doo time on the Hollywood, Trump's Hollywood star.
That's a good bean.
And that, folks, is what it has come to. That's the state of politics on this, the 24th day of August, 2026. That's not news, but that too is reality. Try and keep it real in this fake Trump world we're living in. See you tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern. On the flip side.
Biden's about, Charlie's alive. Elvis flips burgers on the Lower East Side. 10 Trumps mask up on your phone. Shilling mean coins by remote drone. Graphene needles in your veins. Chemtrail sugar fries your brain. George Floyd's American hologram pie. Don't trust your lying eyes. It's all fake. It's all fake. The moon is a hoax. Give your head a shake. It's all fake. It's all fake. Your mama's a lizard. Your dad ABC, are you awake? Don't believe your lying eyes. It's all fake. It's all fake.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.